to talk about the Commute Trip Reduction survey happening in the fall of 2019. So this will be an hour-long webinar that I will try to do my best to only take about 30 minutes to give you information, and then leave the remainder of the time for Q&A, and we'll remain on the line for the full hour in case you have questions afterwards and maybe they pop up and you thought you were done. So Dylan Juliet is one of my colleagues on the Commute Trip Reduction team here at Commute Seattle, and he is going to be fielding your questions through the chat box as well as the Q&A. So if you have questions, I would suggest going first to the Q&A so that everyone else can see your question too, because they might have the same one, and then he'll get back to you as soon as he has an answer for you. But before we get going, I want to suggest to everyone that we have a really great survey tool and process videos on the Commute Seattle YouTube page. So if you go to bit.ly/CTR YouTube, it'll take you directly to this channel. I know some people have trouble accessing YouTube at their workplace. So if that's the case, I would suggest that you open an incognito window or just directly email ctr@commuteseattle.com and we'll be able to help you work through your questions. The last thing that I would suggest too is a great resource is commuteseattle.com/CTR/survey. That will take you directly to our resource page for the survey and provide a number of frequently asked questions that already have the answers provided. So those are some great resources for you all as employee transportation coordinators before we even get into the training. All right. So here's a kind of brief agenda for what we're going to be covering today. First and foremost, what is Commute Trip Reduction and why is it important? We'll do an overview of the Commute Trip Reduction survey process. We'll particularly outline who at your workplace needs to take the survey. We'll run through a couple of ways that you can help prepare your workplace for the survey as an employee transportation coordinator. We'll talk about what happens when you launch the survey, what happens when the survey is live. We'll go over a few tips and tricks about how to make your survey successful at the first go so you don't have to do it again. We'll review again the frequently asked questions and where to find those on the Commute Seattle website. We'll take a glance at the CTR Survey Administration Portal and what it looks like on the employee transportation coordinator side. And then we'll talk about what we do with all of this data after the survey and how it can help inform commuter programs and benefits at your workplace, but also improve congestion, air quality, and things like that region-wide. Before I jump into what is Commute Trip Reduction, are there any questions before we get started? I'm going to pause for just a couple seconds. I'd just like to note here before we get going that we have 50 folks joining the webinar. I wasn't here. Unfortunately, I wasn't here for the last CTR survey training, so this is my first time doing it as an employee here at Commute Seattle. So keep that in mind when you're listening in today, that we're kind of all fairly new to the process and we're working through it together and we're all here to help one another have a successful survey. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and get going here. So what is Commute Trip Reduction? Commute Trip Reduction is a state of Washington law, and it affects employers with over 100 or more employees who report to work at a single site between 6 and 9 a.m. Those employers or work sites are affected by the Washington State Commute Trip Reduction law. There's a few things that make this policy and law really significant and important to the work that we do here in the Seattle region. First and foremost, to reduce traffic congestion. We all know that it's not just the center city that experiences traffic congestion. We have kind of a traffic problem region-wide here in the Puget Sound area, so we're working to help mitigate that traffic problem, get folks into informed commute options, and be able to not have to arrive at their workplace by driving alone. Alongside lesser people driving alone to the workplace, that will also improve air quality and reduce greenhouse gas emissions. And the last kind of point here is that Seattle is very lucky to have an awesome, thriving economy where people are moving here each day to do business, to improve their livability, and we want to keep that economy and livability thriving. And a part of that is helping our services and goods move throughout the region and city. So if we have less people commuting alone to the workplace, we'll be able to keep our businesses thriving and moving and help keep our freight trucks also thriving and moving. So the last time we did a commute trip reduction survey was in 2017, and this is a quick glimpse about what that data looks like. You may have saw a lot of press or articles or media about only 1 in 4 commuters arriving to downtown Seattle by car, by driving alone. And that study was put out with a partnership between the City of Seattle, Downtown Seattle Association, and Commute Seattle, as well as EMC Research. So we put together what is known as the Center City Mode Split and look at how folks are arriving to downtown. And we learned in 2017 that about 1 in 2 folks are using transit to get to downtown, and 1 in 4 are only using their cars to get to work by themselves. We also noted here that we have about 6% of folks that are taking in other means of a commute. So this means that they are taking telework or compressed work weeks as a schedule, or they noted something like an employer shuttle help them get to work in this category. We also know that while folks are maybe being displaced and moving to the outskirts of the center city, we know that some people are lucky to have a living wage that can help them live adjacent or even right in the same neighborhood as their work. So we see about 8% people walking to work in 2017, and are kind of expecting that number to increase as we do the survey for 2019. We also know that since 2015, there have been new ride-hailing apps like Uber and Lyft become available in the mobility market. So we saw about 10% of folks using rideshare for work, and that being that they had an Uber or Lyft with maybe not just themselves in it, so they had another person, they did an Uber pool or a Lyft line to help them get to work. So in 2019, after we survey all employers and do a intercept survey for smaller businesses in the downtown core, we'll be able to have a new center city vote split. So this is a brief overview of the survey process, and we can see 10 basic steps to help you work through the survey. The ones that are outlined with the Commute Seattle logo, the little hexagons there, those are the process steps that we, Commute Seattle, own and help facilitate for the survey process. The ones that are not signified by that logo are things that employee transportation coordinators like yourself will take the role of owning that. So first and foremost, you're going to register for a survey window, and if you're joining us for the webinar today, you're probably already registered for a survey window that's happening this fall. If you have not registered for a window and have also found yourself to this webinar today, reach out to ctr@commuteseattle.com and we'll get your workplace scheduled for an appropriate window. Commute Seattle will then schedule your survey in the CTR Survey tool. We'll have you send the survey link if you're doing that online method to employees. You will be able to monitor your response rate when the survey is live through the WSDOT survey tool. Commute Seattle will go in on the last day of your survey and close the survey so no one else can access it online. We'll then send your survey results to WSDOT. They'll do some data crunching and develop a summary report for you, your workplace, and you'll sit down with Commute Seattle to debrief those results over the PDF. When we have all of the surveys and all of the data back from WSDOT, we'll do a Commute Trip Reduction program-wide update to our Tableau dashboard, where we will be able to better visually communicate that mode split data and have a heat map of where your employees are coming from as well. As also, we'll be able to tell you your most traveled day of the week. So if a lot of folks are arriving to your workplace on Wednesday, we'll be able to show you that in a visually data tool as well. And then all of this information will boil down into you being able to better inform your commute programs and benefits at your workplace, to better adjust your subsidies if you have a lot of folks taking transit or you have a lot of folks biking to work. All of this information is not only helpful for the region at wide to get a look at how people are coming to Seattle and what modes they're taking to get here, but also to help you inform best practices at your workplace for transportation demand management and commute production. And as always, Commute Seattle is a resource available to you. So we're here to help you debrief the data, process it, understand it, and make those recommendations to how to improve over time. So who takes the survey? And some of you that may have participated in the survey and administered it at your workplace in the past may know the term CTR Affected Employee, and others may think that that makes no sense to them and they may need some help understanding it. So in the Commute Trip Reduction law, it outlines for folks coming to your work, full-time employees that are coming to your workplace between 6 and 9 a.m., the full-time item there signifies that they're working at least 35 hours per week. 6 to 9 a.m., they're arriving during that peak morning commute time. Full-time also signifies that they're working 2 or more weekdays during the work week, and that their job is intended to last at least 12 continuous months. So for example, if you have, say you're at a City of Seattle public pool, and you have a seasonality of lifeguards coming on board, those employees are not full-time staff members and they are not affected by Commute Trip Reduction law. So they're only a temporary employee, maybe they're an intern, they're not intended to work 12 continuous months, and they may not work 35 hours per week. If you have questions about that, feel free to post them in the Q&A and Dylan will be able to help you work through them. So when do we survey employees? Typically, and for most Commute Trip Reduction affected employers, you will survey during the fall of odd years. So the last time, like the Center City Mode Split was done in 2017, that was the last time we did a Commute Trip Reduction wide survey. And then the next time we do one will be in the fall of 2021, and so on and so forth. The bulleted list there gives you the dates and survey windows that we have available for this survey cycle. They begin on September 16th, and each window is open for a 2-week period, Monday through Friday. And you'll notice that there are a couple of best practices outlined in the blue box there. It's a best practice to allow for yourself for at least 2 weeks to prepare for the survey, and you're kind of already ahead of that by attending this webinar today. We also want to note that CTR surveys are not to be administered with a holiday in the survey window. So for example, if your company observes Veterans Day, which is in the window of November 11th through the 22nd, you're not eligible to survey in that window. So if you already registered for that window and are like, oh darn, we observe Veterans Day, I need to pick a new window, just reach out to Commute Seattle and we'll help you get into a new survey window so that you have the survey during a typical commute week for your employees. So this is kind of where we are now, 4 weeks before the survey for some of you that are surveying in the beginning of September. That's right now. So what do we need to do at this point in time to help you prepare for your survey? For those that know that they're surveying online, there are 2 different methods for how you can administer your survey. First of all, we have a recommended method for you that helps with targeted communication, and that's the upload method. Essentially, the upload method means that you will have an Excel spreadsheet with all of your email addresses for the staff at your workplace. You will upload that list of emails to the wash.ctr survey tool on the administration site. And then you'll be able to see via reports who has and who has not taken the Commute Trip Reduction survey to be able to do targeted communications, which will greatly boost that response rate to help you get to 50%. We have a template linked here for how to set up that Excel sheet. And the difference is there for the domain method is that for domain, everyone with the company email domain, so for example, at commuteseattle.com, everyone here, regardless of their full-time employment status, regardless of when they arrive to work, will be able to access that survey. This is super easy access and bulk administration. There's no list that you need, which can sometimes be difficult for ETCs to derive, but there still is no targeted communications available with the domain method. So for example, you'll have to do all staff emails to remind people of taking the survey. Whereas with the upload method, you could only email the people that have not taken the survey to remind them to please do so. You're able to share the link at the bottom with employees when you're able to launch the survey, and this video that's in here, embedded in the slide here, is linked at the bottom of it that you can feel free to peruse at your leisure too.
So after you choose which online method is best for you in your workplace, whether or not you can derive that email list, and whether or not you think that you'll have problems reaching that 50% response rate and want to do targeted communications, that will depend on what video is next for you. So we have a really in-depth 3-minute video on how you can upload that list to the Wash.Survey tool. But if you choose to go with a domain method where all of your email addresses at the company domain name can access the survey link, you'll want to skip to the next survey that's outlined here in the 4th column there. Survey process step 2A, domain survey access. This will talk to you about how you can change the domain names for your survey. Say you want to add another survey domain that maybe only some of your employees use, you're able to do that. Some companies will have a number of domains that they use in-house, so we want to make sure that everyone has access no matter what domain that they're using. You can do that with this survey video. Again, you can find those videos at bit.ly/CTR YouTube. We also have the paper survey method available by request to worksites. Most of you have already reached out to us about paper surveying if you've done so in the past. But if you feel like you have a number of staff that don't have access to computers, that maybe don't have an email address to access the survey, or maybe you have a lot of English as a second language speakers at your workplace, paper surveys might be the best option for you, and we're able to help you get prepared for that on an individual basis. It's important to note that this is an additional administration burden on some people. You will need to have a time and place available to have people come to you to take the survey, or directly work with middle management or supervisors of departments to be able to disseminate the survey and have them collected back from staff after they take it. So again, it's an additional burden for administration, especially for the ETC and coordinating that. But it's also really great for retail and service industries where folks are out on the floor all day and don't have access to an email and are able to take the paper survey. Again, paper surveys will still only take you 5 minutes to complete as an individual taking the survey. So it's the same time as online as it is in paper too. So kind of 2 weeks before the survey is launched, so your survey start date, you're going to want to communicate to leadership to help communicate the importance of the survey to help you get to that 50% response rate. Commute Seattle suggests that you work with C-suite executives to send an email about the survey to all staff. So that can be an email from someone in operations, someone, a CEO, a president, something like that. Or it can be someone that is a really great champion for transportation at your workplace that people recognize, to let them know that the survey is really important to your workplace, that will help inform and potentially change programs or benefits that they have in-house, and also help get a better understanding of how people are coming to work to better plan for infrastructure and transportation needs around the city. This is also a great time for you to let your IT department know if necessary. For folks that have been administering the survey at their workplace in the past, IT is probably already aware, but if it's your first time, it's good to let them know that staff will be logging on to an external website to take a survey, just to let them know that this is happening in-house and to make them feel comfortable with any privacy concerns. You can feel free to review the privacy document on commuteseattle.com/CTR/survey. We have the information about data privacy on there. We provided you with boilerplate communications to help you get started with communicating to executives and middle management, as well as IT. So you're able to download here. Both of the links on this slide will take you directly to download that PDF of the survey communications. There's a few things highlighted in those communications about changing your survey window. So there's a few things highlighted that you'll need to update for your individual communications. So 1 week before the survey, we got to tell people that it's happening. We got to let them know to help you get to that 50% response rate. And how they can do that is just simply clicking on a link and taking the survey. Let them know that it only takes 5 minutes. You can hang up posters that we've designed and provided for you in common areas like your kitchen, your break rooms, the bicycle parking that you might have in your garage, elevator doors if you're allowed to do things like that. I know some places have something called potty presses in the bathroom for folks to read. You can post them in there to let people know. We also have web graphics available that you can post on your intranet if you do all web communications. We have those available for you. 1 week before the survey, it's also great to think about incentives. And if you're going to purchase any to help encourage participation, you can purchase bulk online Starbucks gift cards, which is a great option. 1 week before, it's also good to start thinking about an event if you choose to go that way as an incentive, planning a survey and snack event. And what that means, maybe you need some coffee and treats for folks to come in and have some laptops set up for them to be able to take the survey online and get a treat after they take it too. The links here will have individual survey graphics, promotional graphics for each of the survey windows, block 1 through 5. And that's important because they have your individual survey window on them, what date range the survey is open for your workplace. You can also download the boilerplate communications online, which is linked up here in the top right-hand corner. At this point in the webinar, you're probably wondering, well, what questions am I asking people to take? And what does it look like? So here we have the Commute Trip Reduction paper survey just printed here. It's a one-page front and back, and it asks an individual 13 questions. I'm just going to spend a couple of minutes on this slide, and then I'll have a follow-up on a frequently asked question that we get from a lot of folks on question 4, but I'm just going to go ahead and read the question so that you're aware of what you're asking people to take in the survey and what information we're collecting from you. So the first question, the first 2 questions will get at whether or not the person is CTR affected. So the first question asks, which of the following best describes your employment status? This will get at whether or not an employee is full-time or part-time and how many hours a week they're working. The next question will ask them, what days do you typically begin work between 6 and 9 a.m.? This will get at whether or not they're commuting on a weekday and whether or not that is between the peak hour commute in the morning of 6 and 9 a.m. The next question asks, how many miles do you commute from home to your usual work location? You'll start in the right column for 0 and work your way up to 100 in the left column. This is getting at the number of miles an individual travels to get to work each day. In transportation world, we call it VMT, or vehicle miles traveled. The fourth question is, last week, what type of transportation did you use each day to commute to your usual work location? So this is getting at what mode did they take each day of week to get to work. If you carpooled or vanpool as part of your commute, or you rode a motorcycle, how many people were usually in the vehicle, including yourself? So if you're a carpooler, say you use Waze Carpool or Scoop to help you get to work to find a carpool match, answer how many people are typically in your car when you carpool. Is it usually 2 people? Is it usually 3 people? Or is the car completely packed with 5 people in your sedan? For the van poolers, maybe you have a 12-passenger van and it's typically full, but sometimes not. You would answer that you're in a 12 people in this little bubble there. Some van pools go up to the 15-passenger size, so we have that included all the way up. The only kind of demographic question that we ask people is, what is their home zip code? So they'll fill in the numbers there accordingly. Question 7 asks, what was last week a typical week for commuting? So maybe you were on PTO, so you didn't commute at all. That would be not a typical week for you. Question 8, which of the following best describes your work schedule? If you're an employee, say you're a nurse and you work 4 10s, this is where you would answer, I work a compressed work week, I work 4 days a week, and they are 10-hour shifts. Say you're a normal office employee, you work 9 to 5, you would answer 5 days a week. Maybe you're a retail employee and you work a few days on the weekend and you work over a 2-week period, so you can work 9 days in 2 weeks. A different variation, this is just getting at your typical work schedule. On the most recent day, question 9, on the most recent day that you drove to work alone, did you pay to park? Yes or no, or I don't drive alone. How many days do you typically telework? You can answer accordingly. The next 2 questions, 11 and 12, are getting at motivators to driving and motivators to taking transportation options. And the last question, question 13, is asking what agency you use to get to work if you commuted via transit. And it's asking about the number of one-way trips. So maybe you come from the north end of Seattle and you use King County Metro to get down in the morning, but you take an express bus on community transit to get home in the evening. So you would be able to answer, I take 5 commute trips with King County Metro in the morning, and then I take 5 commute trips with community transit in the evening. If you're not sure what transit agency it is, I would suggest to people taking the survey just to Google their bus line or Google their route, and they'll be able to tell you on Google which survey or which service they use to be able to get to work. If you have any questions about what we're asking on the survey, feel free to reach out at ctr@commuteseattle.com. So some of you, this is super relevant to you, and you may be wondering, well, my mode isn't included in question 4. How do I tell my staff to answer correctly so that we have a appropriate mode split for what people are taking to get to work? So kind of an FAQ alert here, frequently asked question that we receive. How do people answer if they took Uber, Lyft, or an employer shuttle to work? Question 4 is where they would be able to answer this. But as you can see in the list of options for modes, Uber, Lyft, or ride-hailing or employer shuttles aren't listed here. So what does this mean? How do they answer correctly in the survey? To say that they took an Uber pool and they actually carpooled to work, how do they answer correctly? So you're going to want to communicate to staff if you know you have a large amount of population coming from Uber or Lyft or with an employer shuttle. You're going to want to communicate this in your communications. So if you've taken a shared Uber or Lyft, so sometimes they're called Uber pools or Lyft line, this is a carpool. You've shared your ride with another individual and had someone drive you. So you had 2 people sharing a ride to get to work that day. That is a carpool. If you took an Uber or Lyft by yourself, you drove alone. You just had a personal driver for the day. So that is still considered driving alone, no matter if you weren't the person physically driving yourself to work. If you open your Uber or Lyft up to another individual to ride with you, you are a carpool. That's another way of looking at it. What about an employer shuttle? It's still not on the list. It's not a bus. It's not a public bus. What is it? This we're going to have folks answer in the other category and text enter employer shuttle. If you have questions about this, again, feel free to reach out at ctr@commuteseattle.com. So after you promote the survey, let people know that it's happening, we're ready to launch. On the start of your first survey date on that survey window is going to be your start date. So for example, November 11th in the block 5, that is your survey start date. What do you need to do as an ETC? You're going to want to send out the survey link to staff. First and foremost, they got to have the link to be able to take the survey. You're going to tell them that they can access the survey with their work email address and that it takes less than 5 minutes to complete. You can use the graphics we've developed here over on the right to put on your intranet site, print them out, put them in the break rooms. We also have a few different sizes of these to be able to advertise and get people to take the survey. During the mid-survey, about a week in, maybe the Friday during the first week or the Monday of the second week, you're going to want to log into the survey tool as an administrator with your login information that Commute Seattle provided to you over email. You're going to want to log in and check your response rate. During the mid-survey, you should be near or over 25% of your response rate. You should be well on your way to hitting that 50% response rate threshold. If you chose to do the upload method, you're able to run reports on who has taken the survey. Maybe you're doing a raffle for the people who have taken the survey, so you're able to do a raffle that week to see who has taken the survey, and you're also able to run a report on who has not taken the survey. You can reach out to those individuals directly by running that report on who has not taken the survey and do targeted communications to boost that response rate. We have developed kind of 1 week left to take the survey, graphics and things available online. Feel free to visit commuteseattle.com/CTR/survey to be able to download those based on your survey window. The day before the survey closes, this is your kind of last chance to send out a reminder and check your response rate to see if you've hit that 50% threshold. So in the subject line of an email, it might be like last chance to take the commuter survey, last chance to get in the raffle, if you're offering something like that. And at this point in time, you should be near or already at the 50% response rate threshold. Again, we have communications already drafted available for you to download. Those are linked below. And then we have linked here also that video about how to run reports on the WASH.CTR Survey Tool administration portal. So what makes the CTR survey successful, and how do you pass this survey requirement as part of the Commute Trip Reduction law? Well, you've heard me say it many times. I think there might be a prize for how many times I can say it over this webinar, but you need at least a 50% response rate for your survey to be accepted. We strive that you hit 70% for better data, and that gives you a 20% buffer of folks taking the survey, but 50% is the minimum to pass the survey requirement. How do you know what your response rate is? Again, logging into the CTR tool as an administrator, you're able to check your response rate throughout the survey. We do recommend that you check it at least 2 times per week. You don't need to send communications every time you check the survey response rate, but it is good to be aware and informed of how much farther you have to go before you hit that 50% response rate. So it may be very obvious, but you, the employee transportation coordinator, are the key to success for having a great survey experience. First and foremost, make sure that you are here for the survey window. Make sure that you are not on PTO, that you're not taking vacation. And if things come up last minute, try to have a fill-in for you, or reach out and let us know that you need to bump out your survey window because something came up and you'll be out of office. The survey can't administer itself. It needs your help to help communicate the link to staff and get to that 50% response rate. So if you communicate early and often about the survey, you're going to have better odds of getting that 50% response rate. We also have developed posters and graphics for you, like I mentioned, so you're able to share those in common areas, post them on intranet websites if you have something like that, and you can probably schedule them in advance so you don't have to even think about it the day of. Working with middle management and getting them the resources they need about the survey so they can communicate it in team meetings is a great way to have it trickle down to the individual staff member. Also, like I mentioned in the earlier slide, executive leadership, demonstrating importance for commute trip reduction at the workplace is a really great way for folks to participate in the survey and hear it from an executive level. Even as the survey deadline gets closer and maybe you're not at 50% yet, working with executive leadership to have an extra nudge for participation is a really great way to boost your response rate. Lastly, we know that incentives work. We know that subsidies work for your transit passes. Similarly, offering a small gift card, free coffee or treat, or even some company swag will gain interest in people taking the survey and boost that response rate. So you may have a question. Someone else probably has the same question. We've developed a pretty robust frequently asked questions list on our website. You're able to review those. So as you get on the website, you're going to want to scroll to the bottom where it says frequently asked questions, and then you'll click on each blue bar that has a question embedded in it, and it'll populate the answer out to you. If you can't figure it out or your question isn't listed in there, you can always reach out to the Commute Seattle Commute Trip Reduction team at ctr@commuteseattle.com. This is what the administrative portal looks like. You'll be able to log in to the login with your username, which was sent out to those that have registered for their survey window yesterday. Your login will be something usually like etc@companyname.org.com. So for example, Commute Seattle or the Downtown Seattle Association, we are affected by Commute Trip Reduction. So we have the same login information and have to go through the same process as some of the other workplaces around Seattle. So we have an employee transportation coordinator that's going to set up the survey and help us get it up and running. His login information is etc@commuteseattle.com. His password is a variation of his name. It can also be your E-code, which is very typical. Most Commute Trip Reduction workplaces will have their E-code as their password to log in. Again, you've gotten this login information if you've registered for your window. So if you didn't get any login, you probably haven't registered for your window yet. Reach out to us directly and we'll be able to get you registered and get you your login information for the tool. If it's giving you problems and you are failing to log in, don't worry, we have your login information. Commute Seattle is the only people that can actually change that login information. So we are able to change it, update it to the right name and things like that. Just reach out to us and we'll be able to assist you. We've got a full staff here, so we're ready and well prepared to help you all work through the process. The last thing to note here is when you log in, myself, Olivia at Commute Seattle, and other staff members here are able to change the method in which you choose to survey. So if you're going with an online method and you, before the survey starts, decided that you'd rather upload a list of employees, but you've already picked domain, that's okay. We're able to help you. We can switch it out and help you upload that list before your survey gets started, and then you'll be able to do those targeted communications. We have really short and sweet YouTube videos that demonstrate the CTR Admin Portal. So I suggest that you visit our CTR YouTube page. And if you can't get to YouTube at your workplace, that's okay. Reach out to us. We'll be able to help you and walk through a demo one-on-one. Finally, last but not least here, what happens after you survey? So we send over your survey results from the Commute Trip Reduction survey tool to WashDOT. They receive your data, they do some number crunching, derive a mode split, and about 2 to 4 weeks, depending on their capacity over at the State Department of Transportation, they send that back to Commute Seattle with the survey report. We then reach out to you with a PDF report of your results. We talk to you about your mode split, your response rate, where employees are coming from, what motivators are derived from those last couple questions. And then once we have all of the data back from every worksite, we will do a bulk upload to our Commute Trip Reduction Tableau dashboard and work you through that that tool that communicates your data in a more visually receptive way. So essentially, you'll be able to obtain your company's mode split. You'll understand if your response rate was at 50% or not, and if you have to resurvey due to that being below 50%. If you're above 50%, you are successful. You'll be able to digest your CTR Tableau dashboard, and then you'll be able to use best practices to achieve your Commute Trip Reduction drive alone rate goal. Whether that is making small changes and working with Commute Seattle to change your subsidy for your ORCA program, or maybe it's just getting more bike infrastructure to help support your bike commuters. The levels of changes and how intense or not intense they may be depends on what they are. If you don't have your access code currently for your Tableau dashboard, again, reach out to us. We'll get you your access code and work you through how to use that tool and how it can benefit your work as an employee transportation coordinator. So all of this, like I mentioned in the beginning, will make up a new Center City mode split. So we'll do intercept survey with Center City businesses and work with EMC Research to compile the data into a central mode split. This is coming soon in January 2020, so please stay tuned, and I'm sure you'll hear about it later on in the year too. And the last thing that I wanted to plug out before we open it up to questions, I'm doing pretty good on time here, is we have our annual Transportation Transformations event that is open and available to register for. That'll be hosted down at the Port of Seattle Pier 69 building on September 19th from 5 to 7 p.m., where we'll hear from agency partners, folks at the city, and transit agencies about changes coming online. We'll hear about viaduct demolition and how it's going and what the waterfront reconstruction project is going to look like in the future. We'll hear about projects like the Washington State Convention Center, Link Light Rail expansion to Northgate and to the east side, Coleman Dock updates, and it's all really, really relevant because we're down there on the port, right on the waterfront where most of this change is happening. We'll also have a continuation of our CTR champions and have a sort of unconference style discussion and activities to help you gain more information about commuter programs, learn about your role and what it could be as an employee transportation coordinator, and just keep fostering the knowledge sharing around companies around Seattle that are affected by Commute Trip Reduction. Please visit the link at the bottom of this slide to be able to RSVP to Transportation Transformations, or you can also find it on the Commute Seattle calendar. And I know Dylan has been fielding your questions over the Q&A chat box. So I am going to get in here and see what Dylan has answered. Where can I access the slides from Cam? You can access the slides on our YouTube page after the webinar. We're going to download the recording and upload the recording to the YouTube page, do a couple of edits to edit it out, make it a little bit shorter. We will also post the slides. Those are available in the chat box. I sent over the slides are in the PDF and available for download, but they don't have the recording attached to it yet. Those will be posted to the website as well. The recording will be on the YouTube page. Why do we not allow people that are multimodal to be able to access more than one mode per day? This is a great question, and we know that people are taking many modes to get to work, and on any given day and time, you can shift because Seattle has really great flexible commute options and shared options that people don't need to really have on hand all the time. The survey intends to capture the mode that you took for the longest portion of your commute. So if you're using, say, a bike or your feet to walk or bike to get to the bus stop, you would choose bus as your longest commute mode. Hopefully in the future, the survey tool will better capture multimodal data. I know that's something that's of very high interest of our partners, and something that we're trying to do a better job of capturing. Tobin wants to know, he's not sure which window he registered for. Reach out to Commute Seattle. We will help you figure that out and also make sure that you are registered for a window. CTR@commuteseattle.com is the best place to reach the whole team, and then we'll coordinate with one another to get back to you. Could you please email me the presentation? Yes, and I'm sorry, Margaret, that you're having problems staying connected to the presentation. This is our first time using the Zoom tool, so hopefully it gets better over time too. We will email you the presentation afterwards, also available on the YouTube page and Commute Seattle website. Great question from Tobin. Do we want to exclude people working less than 35 hours per week in the survey? And can we still include them if we want? Yes, Dylan answered this really well, so I'm going to read off what he has. One of the first questions on the survey asks employees about their employment status, essentially how many hours they work during the week. This question helps determine whether the employee will be included in the CTR Affected Employee count. We recommend most work sites ask all employees to survey, and the questions in the survey should help filter out who is actually affected by the law, full-time commutes to the office regularly, 6 to 9 a.m., and who is not. If ETCs has specific questions or concern about part-time workers at their sites, reach out to CTR Commute Seattle and we'll work through it with you. It looks like we just got a new question from Lily, who is asking, we have numerous employees that are technically based in downtown Seattle, but spend most or all of their time at client sites that are not in Seattle and may be in Redmond or Bellevue. Would they still need to take the survey? That's a really great question. And based on the information that you provided, Lily, I would say that yes, they would still be required to take the survey, given that Commute Trip Reduction is a statewide law and policy. It's not just the city of Seattle that's affected by Commute Trip Reduction. Many sites over in Bellevue and Redmond are also affected. And given that their workplace is based in downtown and that is where they are to arrive at work, I think that Commute Seattle is kind of similar in that scenario, in that we have lots of folks managing accounts and things, and so sometimes we're not always coming to the workplace. I would suggest that they answer the question, is this a typical work week, yes or no, and that'll help us base the survey. I know that's not a perfect answer, Lily, and we'll be happy to work with you one-on-one afterwards. I believe that Dylan is your account manager, and he's also typing a text reply so that others can see too. I'm just pulling up the chat box to see if there are any things going on in here. Okay, we have about 9 minutes left in our webinar hour time. So will we get a copy of the questions and answers from today? Yes. Yes, you will get a copy of those Q&A, and if necessary, we can update the FAQ on the website to incorporate those as well. It's a great question. Like I said in the beginning, we're gonna remain on the line here until 1 p.m. I just want to thank everyone for your time and joining us over your lunch hour today to listen in on the Commute Trip Reduction survey training for ETCs around Seattle. If this is your first time administering the survey, not to worry, many people are also experiencing that as well. I think our poll said about 50-50 of folks are new to completing the survey process. So Commute Seattle is here to help. We're a free resource thanks to the city of Seattle, so we're always available help with your questions, and provide really great customer service. That's our kind of foundation to what we do here. So if you've got questions or are just really confused, that's okay. That's okay, we can help, and we are here to do so. Tobin is also asking, is it advisable or recommended to share results with employees? Yes, I would say for transparency and for their time, at the very least, that they took to take the survey, yes, feel free to share results with them. When you're communicating the survey, I would let staff know that they probably won't hear any results about the survey until the new year, but that's not to say they won't hear, that you'll get back to them as soon as you know something, they will know something too. North Seattle College is asking, I have another government agency based at my location. Can I include them in the survey? I would say that that question should be answered outside of the webinar. I'm wondering if it's Chris up there or not. And if so, Chris, feel free to reach out to me, oliviah@commuteseattle.com or CTR and we'll work through that together. Another question here from Tobin, with results being delivered 2 to 4 weeks after the survey, is it after the window or the full survey period? Great question, Tobin. That is after your individual survey window that will get a report back from the Washington State Department of Transportation. However, the bulk upload of all of the data from every Commute Trip Reduction worksite to the CTR Tableau dashboard, where we visually communicate the data, won't be updated until after all the worksites have taken the survey. So that don't expect the Tableau tool to be updated until close to December. And to get back to the North Seattle question, I had to take a couple minutes to think about it. If you know that government agency is also of 100 employees or more, they are probably already taking the CTR survey. So we can work together on how to best determine if they are the same worksite or maybe they're a different workplace under the same organization, something like that. But I will reach out to you directly over email and we can work through that together. Also, I just wanted to say thank you for all of your really great questions. These are very helpful, and it's really great to get positive feedback also in the chat box from folks. It's good to have you here. I know we don't all get together very often as a group, and that's something that I think we're working on at Commute Seattle to better foster that knowledge sharing experience for you all. For the folks that are online, was this something that you enjoyed, having an online option and a place to share questions and answers with folks? Is this something maybe that Commute Seattle can do more of? And if you don't answer, that's okay. Got a few yeses coming through. That's great. We'll be happy to incorporate kind of webinars and more knowledge sharing online, especially for folks too. I'm just sharing the results of the poll, asking if folks have administered the CTR survey at their workplace before. It looks like it's a little bit more of 30-70 split. For yes, 30% have administered and 70 have not. So for the 70% that have not administered the survey at their workplace, again, don't worry, we're always here to help. And if it makes you feel any better, Dylan and I's first time working ourselves through the survey process is this year as well. So we're all in it together, and we're gonna make a really successful survey season this year. I'm glad to hear that the links were clickable in the slides. That's really great. I also apologize for the YouTube videos not being with sound, but you're always able to use those on the regular YouTube channel. We'll have to work on embedding videos in a webinar with sound in the future. Mary is asking, again, if we'll email the slideshow. Yes, we will send a thank you email to all of the folks that joined the webinar, which will include a link to the presentation. And then we'll also feature the slide deck in our ETC e-blast. It goes out on Monday mornings, Monday afternoons. We'll also have the webinar on the YouTube page and on the Commute Seattle website. If you can't find it in any of those places, you can always reach out to us directly. Beth is asking when she should expect her user ID and password. You should have gotten that in email yesterday, Beth, and if you did not, email CTR and CTR@commuteseattle.com, and we'll be able to get you your username and login information for the CTR administrative site. And if you have not gotten that login information, it's probably because you haven't registered for your survey window yet. If that's the case, reach out to us. We'll get you registered. We'll get you your login information.